Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is the BFTAA and More Show with your host, Louis George Walker, coming to you live from KUAW Radio in Kansas City, Missouri. And we are so glad, let me turn this down so they don't get an echo, that you're able to join with us this afternoon or today. Here in Kansas City, it's a pretty nice day outside. It's a little over 60 degrees or right at 60 degrees. Let me double check that in a minute for you. But we've been having a wonderful summer or spring type of break that has joined us. So I've got it at 57 degrees right now. So 57 degrees is not bad in Kansas City in February. Early February on top of that. So we'll take it and enjoy it all the more. But glad that you could join us here. This is KUAW Radio. KUAW stands for Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. Yes, it's a partnership between the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center and the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, which we are celebrating our 20th year as the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. And it's a year celebration. We're going to be having a great time, and I hope that you'll join us all this year for it. Now, on a quick note, I want to apologize for those of you that were listening to Jessica McKellen's show yesterday evening. We were setting that up remotely, but we had a switch that was thrown on down at the studio, so music and her show were playing at the same time, and there was an echo. It was just really messed up, so I've deleted both of those recordings, and YouTube even got on me about playing music on the video that wasn't approved and stuff. They had about 7, 8, 9 songs that they said, well, you was playing those, and they were right, but that was inadvertent because we did have a show, had a switch thrown that actually gave the broadcast radio side feedback into the YouTube or the video side. So they were actually combining with each other. So that was my bad technical difficulty and wasn't able to get down here to change it because by the time I drove down here, the show would have been over with anyway. But we're back and we're trying to set this up and make sure that we don't have something like that happen again. That was terrible. I got a couple of notes on Facebook about people saying that it was an echo, that there was music they were hearing on there and all kind of stuff. So I do apologize, and we'll try to make sure that that does not happen again. But thank you for listening to us, and we appreciate those that did text and say what they were hearing. Even though it was bad, it lets me know that you were out there and you were trying to listen to the show. So we'll have Jessica's show. I'll upload it again. It was actually a replay show, so it's already on our playlist. So if you go to our playlist site, you can actually listen to that KUAW or that broadcast of Jessica. So we've got all of those shows that she's done kept on the playlist on YouTube, so you can actually go back there and pick them up and listen to them. So hope you'll do that and check it out. But KUAW Radio is broadcasting 24 hours a day in a lot of different ways. We have a broadcast partnership with KOJH, Low Power FM radio station here in Kansas City. That's for the Kansas City's original Jazz House, KOJH, and they're broadcasting at 100.5 FM. So if you're in Kansas City, you can go to 100.5 FM and you can pick up that show. So we'd be glad to, hopefully you'll join us there. If you're not in Kansas City, you can pick us up on the internet, on Get Me Radio, on Online Radio Bot, on My Tuner, on the Radio Garden. You can go to our website, KUAW.org, and hit the play button there, and you can hear this broadcast all over the world. And when we're broadcasting live shows, we also do video, and you can pick us up on Facebook, on YouTube. I will share this over to Twitter and on Twitch. So there are a lot of ways that you can pick up the broadcast. If you've got a smart speaker, one of those Google or Amazon speakers that you can talk to, tell it to play KUAW Radio, and you'll actually get us there. So we're on X, we're not on TikTok right now, but we're going to see about trying to get on TikTok as soon as possible also. But we're trying to get to you so that you won't have any excuse for not listening to KUAW Radio. Let's see, there we are, KUAW _ or there we are. Okay. So yeah, you can pick us up, and I've just sent it over to X. So if you go to X right now, formerly known as Twitter, you can pick us up there. But we try to make it where you can reach and listen to KUAW. We also have our phone lines open. You can give us a call on 816-599-6893. That's 816-599-6893. So call in, tell us what you think about the show, make requests, give any of your comments that you want. We really would appreciate hearing from as many people as is humanly possible. But it is the beginning of the month, so we have an extra NASA video to show you with what's up in the night sky for February. We also have This Week at NASA and Space to Ground that we're going to run. Those are our regular broadcasted segments, comes from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the people at NASA, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and other locations. So we're going to put this up there, and we'll go right into it, or as soon as I can get the, there we go. I have to see about getting my connection set up over here, and we'll bring this up so we can get it to This Week at NASA. So NASA stands for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and we're going to play a bit from them right now. Here we go.
A commercial resupply mission to the space station, preparing to make a delivery to the moon, and monitoring our changing Earth from space. A few of the stories to tell you about This Week at NASA. On January 30th, a Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo spacecraft launched to the International Space Station atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. 2 days later, the Cygnus, loaded with 8,200 pounds of scientific investigations and cargo, safely arrived at the station. This is Northrop Grumman's 20th commercial resupply services mission to the space station for NASA. NASA partner Intuitive Machines will use the company's Nova-C lunar lander to carry a variety of NASA science and technology demonstrations to the moon's South Pole region for the benefit of all. The IM-1 mission, which is part of our CLIPS initiative and Artemis campaign, is targeted for launch from our Kennedy Space Center during a multi-day launch window, which opens no earlier than mid-February. The NISAR Earth Observing Satellite mission is a joint effort between NASA and the Indian Space Research Organization that will deepen our understanding of deforestation, shrinking glaciers and sea ice loss, natural hazards, climate change, and other global vital signs. The satellite's advanced radar system will monitor motions of the planet's surface down to fractions of an inch, along with changes in other characteristics. NISAR is expected to launch from India in early 2024. NASA's 2024 spin-off publication features many commercialized technologies that use NASA research and development expertise to impact everyday lives. From squishy robots that can be sent into dangerous situations before first responders, to aircraft routing technology that enables increased fuel efficiency and smoother flights, to medical technologies for diagnosing illnesses like the coronavirus, hepatitis, and cancer. Learn more at spinoff.nasa.gov. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more about what else we're up to, check out nasa.gov.
All right. So that's a little bit about what's going on at NASA. I hope you enjoyed that. We try and keep a little bit going with that. And NASA is what we're about. We're about closing the digital divide and getting our young people involved in STEM, or STEAM as it may be, science, technology, engineering, math, or science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. But any of that we want to get our young people into those fields to work, to explore careers into it and education in that, or be entrepreneurs in those fields. all of that, because that can help this country in the future. We need our creative minds to be working on different endeavors. We're not going to get out of this global warming and all of the other things that are happening with the climate and the earth and exploring the space without good scientists, engineers, and technicians that can learn, that can develop, that can innovate and make these type of things happen. And then we need to have all the minds that are capable working on this. And that's why we're about what we do. We go out to the high schools and middle schools and even work with elementary students. But to stir up and to give them that information, to make them aware of what's out there in science, so that young people will see that there are career opportunities. We have a lot of people that work with them. Somebody's calling me and it says spam risk, so we don't want to answer that. We have a lot of young people, young engineers and technicians that actually work with the young people to help let them know, and they see people that look like them that are working in this field, that are making careers out of it. And that's what we do at the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. We're open to all people, all races. We do not discriminate due to race, religion, educational levels, any of that. All we do is want to bring people in so that they can work on closing that digital divide. Even for adults and seniors that want to work on learning basic computing and those skills, we open the door for that too. We always are trying to bring more to the forefront. So we just saw what's happening at NASA and the resupply, and that we're now doing a lot of commercial launches to the space station. The aircraft, or sometimes the payload, is a commercial product. It's not all owned and operated by NASA anymore. That they are starting to spread it out, to decentralize it, to let more innovation come in by having different companies compete to develop rockets or payload carrying cargo vessels that will help and maybe lower the cost of space exploration. So that's what they're doing at NASA. So we're going to go to space to ground now and look at a little bit of what's happening with our space station, the International Space Station, that's in a low Earth orbit, which low Earth is still over 100, not 100, I guess more than 100 miles up in space, but a low Earth orbit that we have a space station up there now, so we get a little information of what's going on with them. So let's go right now to space to ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Kayla LaFrance. 11 astronauts and cosmonauts from 8 countries are living and working together aboard the International Space Station this week. More on that in a moment. But we begin on the Florida Space Coast, where teams on the ground are putting the final touches on the upcoming NG-20 launch. NASA's 20th Northrop Grumman mission is slated to launch no earlier than January 29th from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, and will take essential supplies, experiments, and equipment to the orbiting complex. After launch, the cargo vehicle will spend the following 2 days in orbit as it approaches and rendezvous with the space station, where the crew on board will capture the Cygnus spacecraft with the robotic arm and berth it to the Unity module. Among the cargo is some notable scientific investigations that the Expedition 70 crew will execute. This includes a technology demonstration from the European Space Agency to further understand the capability for 3D printing of small metal parts in space. The University of Kentucky's Re-entry Probe Experiment 2 will research conditions that spacecraft experience during atmospheric re-entry, and a robotic surgery tech demo that hopes to test the performance of a small robot that can be remotely controlled from Earth to perform surgical procedures. Live coverage will be provided for both launch and berthing operations, so follow us on social media or watch it on NASA television, the NASA app, the agency's website, or on NASA Plus.
Space to ground.
The 4-member private astronaut crew of Axiom Mission 3 docked to the orbiting laboratory on January 20th. Once the hatch was open, the crew was greeted with smiles by the entire Expedition 70 crew. The Axiom 3 crew spent the weekend getting familiar with the space station systems and emergency procedures before starting Monday with a full schedule of science and media activities. The Axiom space astronauts are expected to depart from the space station February 3rd for a return to Earth and splashdown at the landing site off the coast of Florida. Each year on the fourth Thursday in January, the Space Agency pauses to honor members of our NASA family who lost their lives while furthering the cause of exploration and discovery. On the Day of Remembrance, we celebrate their lives, their bravery, and advancements in human spaceflight.
We're shining a long overdue spotlight on the hidden figures of
All right, and that was Space to Ground as they're playing tribute to those that have lost their life in space exploration as we continue to move forward in our space exploration. So
welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Shaniqua Vereen. This week we take a look at a successful launch of the Axiom 3 mission to the International Space Station. Also, the latest plant investigation is underway. This time we learned how plants defend themselves in space. On Thursday, January 18th.
All right, yeah, that was Space to Ground. Again, we don't need to see more of it, but it's good that they do play tribute because there have been a number of people that have lost their lives in the exploration of space. We had 2 shuttles that blew up. We had the Apollo mission, or the Apollo fire that happened. So there's been, not without the cost of lives to do the exploration that we're doing and going farther and deeper into space, but we have the heroes and we've had those that have paid the ultimate price. Now, one last thing that we want to do from NASA, and that is we want to see what's going on up in the sky tonight. In the wintertime is a good time to do stargazing because the air still is cold and it's not as many waves in it as it is in the summertime when there's the heat waves that you can get. So it's a good time as far as the sky conditions. It might be a little cool to go out at night looking up in the stars, but this is what's going on for the month of February at the sky, in the sky. So this is from the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and it's called NASA What's Up?
What's up for February? Venus and Mars make quite the pair, while Jupiter and the Moon are each other's Valentine, and observing M81, aka Bode's Galaxy. Venus is still a brilliant beacon in the morning, rising in the couple of hours before the sun. It has been sinking lower in the sky for the past couple of months, though, and by the end of February, it's pretty much getting lost in the light of sunrise. It will start making its return as an evening sight in July. You can catch the bright planet together with a slim crescent moon on the morning of February 6th, just as the sky starts to brighten. Next, Valentine's Day brings a nice pairing to enjoy with someone special. That evening, look for the crescent moon near Jupiter, high in the southwest following sunset. They're just a couple of finger widths apart on the sky, meaning most binoculars will show them in the same field of view. And speaking of the moon, NASA's Viper moon rover is planned to launch later this year, and you can send your name to the moon along with it. Visit nasa.gov/sendyournamewithviper for details. Returning to the inner planets, as Venus begins its exit, we find Mars returning to view. The red planet left the evening sky last September, passing through conjunction, where it was on the opposite side of the sun from Earth and thus not visible for a few months. It's now just starting to be visible in the pre-dawn sky. In February, it's quite low and not super bright, but you can observe it brightening and rising ever earlier in the coming months. Those with an unobstructed view toward the southeast horizon can look for a close approach of Mars and Venus as the pair are rising during the last week of February. February is a good time to view one of the famed Messier objects known as M81. This is a spiral galaxy similar to our own Milky Way, but just a bit smaller, and it's one of the brightest galaxies in the night sky. It's located about 11.8 million light-years away from us, which means if you're able to observe it, those photons of light hitting your eye have been traveling through space for more than 11 million years to reach you. It was discovered by astronomer Johann Bode in 1774, which is where it gets its other common name, Bode's Galaxy. At the time, it was simply cataloged as a nebula, or faint fuzzy patch. It wouldn't be until the work of Edwin Hubble in the 1920s that many such faint fuzzy objects were understood to be self-contained galaxies of stars outside the Milky Way and incredibly distant from us. M81 is a bit too dim to see with the unaided eye, but it's visible with binoculars or a small telescope where it appears as a dim patch of light. With a 6-inch telescope, you can resolve the galaxy's bright core, and with an 8-inch telescope, you can begin to make out the spiral arms. Locating M81 is not too difficult with the Big Dipper or the Plow to guide you. Starting with the star on the end corner called Dubhe, imagine a line twice the distance from the star on the opposite corner of the Dipper, Phecda. Pointing your telescope or binoculars in that area ought to put you pretty close to M81. You might also notice its faint fuzzy companion nearby, which is M82. This is another galaxy but seen edge-on, and it gets its common name, the Cigar Galaxy, from this appearance. This pair of galaxies is circumpolar in the northern hemisphere, meaning they rotate around the North Celestial Pole and never set. Unfortunately, this means they're not really visible from the southern hemisphere. Although it's visible all year in the northern hemisphere, from about February through May you'll find M81 high in the northern sky in the first half of the night, making it easier to observe. So grab your telescope or find a local astronomy event with NASA's Night Sky Network and check out M81, Bode's Galaxy, a distant cousin to our home galaxy, the Milky Way. Here are the phases of the moon for February. Stay up to date on NASA's missions exploring the solar system and beyond at science.nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
All right. So, yeah, you get to see a little bit of what's up from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that was NASA What's Up. So, yeah, we'd like to show you the things that's going on with NASA. It's one of our premier research and development arms of the government for flight and for space exploration and a lot of different science that is being worked on there. Biological, mechanical, electrical, a lot of things that they're working with, because it's like, how do we get human beings into space? How do we keep them alive? How do we feed them? What are the conditions? What happens to your body? All of that has to be accounted for, along with the atmosphere and making a capsule or whatever transport unit that you use with getting people into space. So NASA is a huge conglomerate of different scientific fields that come together to make that work that they do so important. So, you know, our hats off to them, and we want to thank NASA for the videos that they put up of the United States government, and we're glad to bring that to you right here from KUAW Radio, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. That's what we're about, so you can learn a little something on it. Well, we're into February, and this is the so-called Black History Month, where we hear a lot about it, we see a lot about it, although Black history is history in general, and it's 365 days a year, and it's not just in the United States, so it's not just an American thing. The African American or the Afro experience, the African experience, is throughout the world. So there's a diaspora of people, black, brown, yellow, spread throughout the world, just as it is of whites, of all other races. So our history is being made all over, not just in the United States. It's not just that the United States has a monopoly on the history of Africans, but we do have the African American history that we kind of separate out from the rest of the world history. But there's a lot that goes on in the history of the darker skinned people in the world. So one of those people that we celebrate every year, and that we have to watch just looking at television or one show to get our information from. Sometimes that leaves us with a real shallow view of that person. I was watching television today with my wife as we were looking at talk shows, and we saw that there's a new book out about Medgar Evers and his wife, Merle Edgar. And it's altogether a bigger story than what you usually hear. The main thing that you know about Medgar Evers, or that a lot of us know, I won't say you because I don't know what you know, but that a lot of people know is that, well, he was a civil rights worker, the head of the NAACP in Mississippi, and he was assassinated. He was shot and killed a couple of years before Malcolm X and about 5 years before Martin Luther King. But a lot of what we hear about, it stops there. You know, we hear just that little bit. Well, there's books out that can give you a deeper look. They talk about the love that this couple had for each other and their family, and the work that he did in his life is a lot deeper than just being shot. Why was he shot? What was he doing? Why would someone want to assassinate him? So those are some of the things that don't always get answered when you just watch a little blurb on the news or something and say, well, this day is for Medgar Evers, who was assassinated in 1965, the NAACP president, da-da-da-da-da. And that's it. So we have to dig a little deeper to really be able to take things in context and see them for the tremendous sacrifice, work, and advancement that they were maybe accomplishing. So we don't want to get our history down to 2 or 3 people and just 2 or 3 sound bites, and that encompasses everything they did. I say all of that to tell you that I've got an article that's out in public domain that was brought to us by the staff of Because of Them We Can. And if you haven't been to their website or share with them, like and follow them on Facebook, you should. Because of Them We Can. BOTWC. Put that in Facebook or on Google and search it and see what comes up and start getting you some more information. Be well-rounded by studying more than one thing. A lot of people in the old days took more than one newspaper when it came out, because this newspaper may write it that way, this newspaper writes it that way. My wife, she'll watch Fox and she'll watch CNN and MSNBC. Well, those are 3 different takes on maybe the same story, but you need to do that to really get a picture of what's going on. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is what history gets wrong about Rosa Parks. Yeah, you heard about Rosa Parks. You know, as we celebrate Rosa Parks' birthday, we revisit the narrative surrounding her undeniable role in the civil rights movement and challenge misconceptions that have woven themselves into the fabric of history. Beyond the well-known story of a work-tired woman refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus in 1955, Parks' life was filled with activism that often gets overlooked. So here we set the record straight for 5 things history gets wrong about Rosa Parks, okay? Now, the truth about Claudette Colvin. Now, that's something that, you say, well, who was Claudette Colvin? Contrary to the common told story, Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her bus seat on December 1st, 1955 was not the first act of resistance of its kind. Today, Claudette Colvin's story is being acknowledged as a precursor to Miss Parks' actions on the Montgomery bus, albeit with its own helping of fallacy. The commentary often diminishes Rosa Parks' contribution as a show of privilege over Colvin. However, movements often don't happen with the first injustice, no, but rather after an accumulation of these injustices. And that was said by Professor of Political Science at Brooklyn College, Gene Theo Harris. So in a Washington Post article, a string of similar bus incidents culminated with Rosa Parks' actions ignited the Montgomery bus boycott. So there were people getting arrested, getting put off of buses, getting beaten about wanting to sit in the bus before Rosa Parks did it. She didn't just come up with it one day and this one person did it, that there were others that had did that. Rosa Parks got a lot of the fame, and some of it they say was, well, maybe that she had a little more privilege because of her position. The narrative often oversimplifies Parks' act of resistance on the bus. The incident wasn't solely about refusing to give up her seat. It was the climax of her tireless efforts against racial injustice. Parks had put in work to overturn the unjust system of segregation and even founded the Committee for Equal Justice for Miss Reese Taylor. So that's some of what Rosa Parks was doing before the bus boycott. The incident on the bus was a catalyst that ignited a larger movement, marking the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott. So, that's something that we sometimes they gloss over, they don't say, but she was an activist before this. She wasn't just getting off work and tired and didn't want to go. She was just tired of being treated that way all her life. Not because of one day at work. Now, while Parks' defiance on the bus is widely celebrated, her activism extended beyond that singular event. She continued to fight for civil rights throughout her life. After the Montgomery bus boycott, Parks and her husband faced severe hardships, including threats and unemployment, due to their activism. Parks became a committed advocate for racial and social justice, working for the NAACP and embracing a broader spectrum of issues. So, you hear that she was just a quiet seamstress that was tired of working that day, and that was like a stereotype that this poor woman had worked so hard and she was just tired and came home or wanted to sit down on the bus. No. A common misrepresentation of Rosa Parks portrays her as a soft-spoken seamstress with no prior involvement in civil rights activism. But in reality, Parks was a seasoned and dedicated activist who had been engaged in the struggle for decades. She was the secretary of the Montgomery chapter of the NAACP, working alongside influential civil rights leaders such as Ed Nixon. So in August of 1955, now she didn't do the bus boycott or didn't refuse to get up off the bus until December of 1955. But in August of 1955, she took a 2-week workshop on school desegregation at Highlander Folk School in Tennessee, an interracial organizer training school. So, she had been busy. She didn't just come up with this out of nowhere, and sometimes we think it's just an act, but she was prepared for this. She worked on this. She was studied. She was trained, because these were things that were life-threatening moves. Sitting on the bus, fighting that segregation could get you lynched. You could get killed. It wasn't like you just go to jail or get beat up. You were taking your life in your hands when you do that. And it was said like her sole connection was to Montgomery. So now while her name is forever tied to Montgomery, her impact extended far beyond that city. Parks eventually moved to Detroit, where she continued her activism. In Detroit, she worked on issues such as housing, inequality, and police brutality, emphasizing that the fight against injustice was not confined to a specific geographic location. It wasn't just in the South. So in separating fact from fiction, we gain a deeper understanding of Rosa Parks' remarkable legacy. And because of her, we can. So be sure to check out the Facebook page, the website of Because of Them We Can, and you will get information about people. And and books that are out that can let you dig a little bit deeper than what you may have thought, or the stories that you hear on the news, or even get taught in our schools, because a lot of times this isn't covered about our leaders in school. They take a short time. You've got a month. You try to cover 200 years of 300 years of African Americans in the United States, and 1 month ain't going to do it at school, you know. So this is something that we have to start teaching our kids at home. We have to encourage them to get the book. We have to start learning ourselves about the different things that have been going on and the people that we either idolize or demonize. But we've got to dig a little deeper and know what's going on with them, and not just taking it as something that happened real quick all of a sudden, because a lot of times it's not that simple. All right. So that's part of our Black history. Now we've got another little bit of Black history to come to you, and I'm going to play that right now. So here's our next bit for Black History Month. Yeah, we're getting into it, y'all.
We're shining a long overdue spotlight on the hidden figures of untaught history who deserve to be celebrated for their contributions to civil rights, politics, the arts, and beyond.
From the time European settlers began forcing Africans into slavery in the early 17th century American colonies, the enslavers stole more than just their freedom. Over the course of American slavery's nearly 250-year history, slaveholders took credit for their slaves' inventions, and as such, there's no way of knowing exactly how many, or in some cases, which creations should actually be credited to black inventors. While the law never explicitly prohibited black inventors from applying for patents, those born into slavery were not considered American citizens, and slave owners legally owned the fruits of the labor of the slave, both manual and intellectual. In 1821, Thomas L. Jennings, an emancipated slave, became the first African American to be granted a United States patent. His status as a freedman, and therefore a citizen, provided the loophole he needed to circumvent the suppression of enslaved ownership of their own intellectual property. Of the 57 patents, Elijah McCoy, reportedly the namesake for the popular complimentary phrase, "the real McCoy," received over his lifetime, the portable ironing board may be one of the most timeless. McCoy is also the man behind another major invention, the lawn sprinkler. Before Frederick McKinley Jones developed the automatic refrigeration equipment used in long-haul trucks transporting perishables in the late 1940s, the only way to keep food cold en route to delivery destinations was by using ice. Thanks to his invention, grocery stores were able to buy and sell products, many of which you probably purchase regularly, from far distances without the risk of them spoiling during transport. Jones' technology was also used to transport blood during World War II.
You're invited to celebrate Black History Month with tncradio.live.
All right. So that's one of the other things we want to bring to you, a little bit of Black history, and I hope that you enjoy that. Those are bits that we'll be bringing to you from time to time through this month for sure. But it's good to know the history, know the inventions, the entrepreneurship that we have had in this country from before freedom even came for everybody. So that was a free African American that was able to get a patent on a product. And there's things going on now. I had an opportunity last week to go, or last Friday and Saturday, to go to Make 48. Make 48, it's a TV show on the History Channel. Well, I'm not sure which channel it's on, but Make 48. And Project Lead the Way is involved in that. So they had students at UMKC yesterday in their Innovation Center, or not yesterday, all weekend. They went from Friday till Sunday. They had 48 hours in order to make projects and develop a project, make the project, and also pitch the project to a set of judges. And I tell you, those kids were over there working. It was fantastic. This is for high school students. Hats off to KIPP high school student. The KIPP school had students there, and talked to them with their project that they were working on. I'd like to find out how they did, and I may have to try and get that teacher from KIPP to come out here on the radio and talk about the program and how her kids worked on it. But they were working on a product, a locker to keep. They had to work on a project for stadiums, how for food or for whatever they're doing at stadiums, to make the experience better than what it is now. And they were working on a locker that when you order your food, you could order it over your phone, and they would put it in this locker that would keep it warm or keep it cold till you got there, and then you would use your phone to open the locker up and get your food out. So you could stay in your seat, make your order. They could even buzz you when your order is ready, and you go up there and get it, right from a locker that keeps it warm. So you wouldn't have to stand in line and wait. So that was very interesting. So I want to talk with them, and if anybody's listening right now that knows KIPP School or that's at KIPP School down on, I believe that's 18th and Prospect, tell them that KUAW wants to get that teacher, and if we can get the students that participated in the Make 48 project, that would really be good for the station. So I'm going to have to reach out to them and see if we can get an interview with those young people and with their teacher. That's what we've got to get our young people into, doing things like that. The bad thing is there wasn't a lot of kids down there that looked like us, that looked like me down there. KIPP School was there. There was a student or two from St. Louis and from, I think, on the Columbia team. But we need to have, there's a lot of schools here in Kansas City that are part of Project Lead the Way. We could have had, a lot more students there. I don't know if they had a selection process or how they got in there, but, Lincoln College Prep, where were you? Didn't see you down there. Ruskin, didn't see you down there. There's some things that we need to make sure our kids get an opportunity to be a part of, because this was an entrepreneurial, engineering, marketing. They had it all rolled into one, and they really had to put forth some effort. They went in there 48 hours. Can you believe that? You had to come up with a product, design a product. They had some help in building the product, and then you had to pitch the product. You had to do all of that in 48 hours. No pressure. But that was great, so my hat's off to them. There's another thing coming. We've got a new paper, a news outlet in Kansas City, and it's called the KC Defender, Kansas City Defender. And they're putting out information from time to time. They let us know that the nation's largest writing conference is coming to Kansas City. It's going to be here, I believe it's this weekend, February, let me see if I got it there. Yeah, this week, starting in 2 days, February the 7th. It's the AWP, Association of Writers and Writers Programs, Conference and Book Fair. It's an annual event that brings together thousands of creative writers from all backgrounds to connect and celebrate the writing community. And this year it's all happening right here in KC. So, you need to check that out. There's going to be a lot of events. Now, to go to that event, which it's a professional event, it would cost you a lot. So they say it's like $385 in advance and $540 at the door if you're wanting to go to this conference, which is going to be jam-packed with literary scholars, authors, poets, educators, and more. But if you want to be interested in attending and supporting black writers but prefer not to pay the cost of a car payment, they say we've got you covered. The Kansas City Defender has put together a list of site events, many of which are free, featuring black writers. These off-site events are typically readings and performances that are organized by the creative writers themselves and held at various spots, Kansas City spots, local Kansas City spots. So that's something that you can go to, and they've got a list of them here. Let me see if I can get that up before I call it a day, because my time has run out. But let me see if I can get that up. I thought I had it. Don't see it there. Yeah, we'll try to have stuff for you, and then it disappears. Isn't that the way things always are? Hold on. Okay, here it is. All right. So some of the events that are happening is February the 7th, this Wednesday, a night of poetics and performances from trans and gender nonconforming artists from Kansas City, Missouri. It's going to be at 5 p.m. at Tunsil Books. The featured black writers are Atakapa, Jade Green, Miss Korea Cavill, Hadasia, Stephanie, Erica Sakata. So they have you go to KC Defender and you can find a way to RSVP on that. Wednesday night poetry is at Charlotte Street, and that is one of the longest running consecutive weekly open mic series. So at 6:30 p.m. at the Stern Theater at Charlotte Street. You can check them out. Featured black writers. This is an open mic featuring several poets and welcomes those interested in performing. Sign up to read one poem at the WMP Wednesday night poetry. Reading at the Hearth, 7 p.m. at Pembroke High School, Patterson Hall. Featured black writer is Jermaine Thompson. A very queer biopic reading hosted by the Texas Indie Literary Organization, 7 p.m. at Nighthawk. Featured black writers K.B. Brookins, M. McPowell, and Monica Prince. Jackleg Women Writers and another Chicago magazine. So that's coming up. 12 p.m. at the Kansas City Public Library, the Central Library downtown at 12 p.m. That'll be Thursday, February the 8th. Mardi Gras in Exile, a Louisiana regional off-site reading, 5 p.m. at Oak Street. So there's a lot of events going on. So if you haven't got it, you need to log into the Kansas City Defender. The Kansas City Defender is an online paper. You can find out about all this poetry, all the reading, all the Women Writers in Bloom Poetry Salon. That's going to be happening, off-site poetry reading. 6 p.m. at Natasha Rhea Art Gallery, Center for Spiritual Living. Featured black writers include Cynthia Manick, Anastasia Renee, Natasha Rhea Elscari, Dr. Natalie Graham, Regan E.J. Jackson. So all of that, and they've got links to RSVP if you can go to the website or go to the Facebook site. I guess it's a website, Kansas City Defender. So check it out if you're into the arts or if you want to go to some shows, some readings, hear some poetry. You may want to check that out. That's going to be going on while they're having this National Book Association of Writers and Writers Programs Conference and Book Fair that's going to be happening right here in Kansas City starting Wednesday. All right. Well, we had a lot of information, kind of made me go a little bit over my time. This is the BFTAA and More Show. I am your host, Louis George Walker. So glad that you were able to join with us today. Hope that you'll come back. We're here every Monday from 5 to 5:45, sometimes just a little bit longer. But from 5 to 5:45, check us out on KUAW Radio and listen to all of our other shows. B. Michael is the follow-up to this show, but he's not going to be in today. B. Michael's going to start back on the third Monday of this week coming up, but Shifting Paradigms usually follows on the first and third Mondays with B. Michael, and you definitely don't want to catch him. So he'll be here on the third Monday. And we also have a show that's going to be starting pretty soon, not exactly sure of the day, but I've been in conversations with a young man that may be bringing in another show shortly. So keep listening to KUAW Radio. Let us know what you think about the shows and what we are doing here. We'd love to hear from you. You can write us, hit us up on Facebook, YouTube, email us at KUAW at gmail.com. Reach out to us online. Go to KUAW-radio on Twitter. Go to KUAW Space Radio on YouTube, and KUAW KUAW- is on Facebook. KUAW_ is at Twitter. But just put in KUAW in your Google or your Bing search, and you should be able to find us. KUAW Radio. Thank you for joining. This is George Walker. This is the KUAW BFTAA and more show. We will see you again next week. Thank you. Have a great day. Go Chiefs!